It's time for Side Scrollers with me, Stuttering Craig. You decide when you lose, not other people. And Blabs.
I like pickles.
And co-hosted by our friends from around the internet. Today we have a special one-on-one interview with RGT85. And in this world of insanity, we are graciously supported by fans of common sense. And now, broadcasting from our homes, it's time for the #1 gaming and entertainment podcast on God's green earth. It's time for Side Scrollers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, welcome on out to Side Scrollers on YouTube.com and Rumble.com and Twitch and Kick and everywhere else on the internet. Good to see everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. I'm Stuttering Craig. Welcome to the #1 video game and entertainment podcast on planet Earth. Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, right here on this YouTube channel, hosted by me. It is Side Scrollers. Good to see everybody. Man, do we got a good one today. It's a one-on-one, as we saw in the intro, with RGT85, the #1 Nintendo, the #1 Sega, the #1 PlayStation, the #1 Atari YouTuber in the entire world, has joined us, has graciously found his way to our laps today. And he's going to provide us with a wonderful lap dance. It's going to be great. Which I'm sure we're going to get into that or not. I want to remind you guys we are live over at Rumble at rumble.com/sidescrollers. We also have a Twitter account at SidescrollerPod. We have a Instagram account, don't we, Blabs?
Yeah, we do. I believe we hit 700 yesterday, so yay!
Let's go. We're also live over on Kick. And make sure you guys hit the subscribe button over here on YouTube as we have blown past 53,000 subscribers. We would love for you guys to join us over here. As I look right now at our account, we are currently sitting at 53,464 subscribers. So hit the subscribe button and join us over here. Our goal is always 300 thumbs up. So hit the thumbs up button if you're just popping in. We'd greatly appreciate that. And our goal is always 20 memberships. If you have any questions for RGT85, make sure you guys ask them in the chat. Super chats obviously greatly encouraged, and they get priority. So what's up with that? That sounds great. With all that said, this Thursday I'll also be doing a one-on-one interview with Nick Raketa. That'll be very, very exciting. And you can also join me after the show over on the new Side Scrollers Plays channel. Join the 4,000 wonderful G2s over there as we play Mega Man 7 and I defeat Dr. Wily today. Should be fun. With that said, now let's get to who you really, really want to see. And that is the greatest Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and television YouTuber on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, RGT85.
The emulation king.
Oh, it's
Forgot
true.
That one. And I don't claim Atari. I got beef with Atari from 2018. And
well, I do know that you guys had a little in my preparation for this. I saw that like when you look for controversies on people, that's like the controversy on you. You like apparently Atari got mad at you for saying something about their console or something. So
yes.
Well, do they call you fake news?
They called me fake news. They called me
Nice.
fake news.
It's a fake news. How does Trump do it? It's fake news, whatever. I don't do a very good Donald Trump, but well, man, dude, I'm glad you're here today. We've been on the show a couple times, and I always enjoy having you on and talking to you, but about gaming stuff. But I want to talk about you, which it's kind of when I look online and I look for information about you. Obviously, there's your channel, and yeah, you worked for the Nintendo Enthusiast, and you got your start writing and all that stuff. But I was looking online, and there's a YouTube fandom page for you, and under the personal life section, it says not much is known about Sean other than a few details he has shared. You're a pretty closed book online. Nobody really knows a whole lot about you.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of like I'm on my live streams, like I'm very just out there, like to the point of where people are like, you can't say that. I'm like, nah, it's fine. But yeah, I mean, personal life wise, I didn't really have, I guess, the most interesting personal life, and I still really don't. So I don't know, maybe people aren't looking for that sort of stuff.
Well, you say that, but I think everybody's story is interesting, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, like, so how did you get to starting at like Nintendo Enthusiast back in the day? Like, what'd you do prior to that?
So I got my start in video game journalism back in January of 2012 because I had a friend who was working for this website called Gaming Truth, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He was like, yeah, it's cool, man. They send us games all the time. I'm like, wait, you get like free games? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, I want in on this. And he was like, well, can you write? I was like, I was pretty decent at writing in high school. Like, I'm sure I could come up with something. So I remember they gave me Shinobi on the 3DS, the new Shinobi game that came out on the 3DS. And they were like, well, write a review for this. And so I did, and they liked it. And then I started rocking with them. And I mean, there was no monetary stuff involved, but at that time I was the only person in that website who had a Wii U and a 3DS. I also had an Xbox 360. I lived with a couple of friends, so we had all the systems between the three of us, but I personally had those two. So they were like, oh, well, you could be like our Nintendo guy. I was like, cool, that works for me. And so we did that for a little while. Everyone kind of went their own separate ways. One of the guy who owns the site actually ended up becoming like a very big Twitch streamer, which I'm glad to see that, you know, he found success and everyone seems to be in a good place in life. But that kind of DJ Knight is his name. It's DEEJAY and then KNIGHT. He's a super good dude. I mean, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't, you know, be sitting here talking to you right now. So that's pretty much how I got my start. And then as far as when that site started sort of dwindling down, I was like, well, I like this. This is fun, you know. I kind of want to stay within the realm. And I was like, I guess I've covered so much Nintendo stuff over the past year and a half, 2 years or whatever. Maybe I should try to stick with that. So I sent out a like a pseudo resume to a couple different websites, and I ended up getting an email back from the owner of Nintendo Enthusiast, and they were like, yeah, you can come in, but you're going to be like bottom rung. You know, you're going to be doing the stuff that nobody else really wants to do. And in my mind, I was like, that's fine. You know, if 6 months from now, I'm still at that bottom rung, I'm probably not cut out for doing this anyways, because I always want to, you know, try and work my way up. So thankfully it did work out that way, to where I ended up becoming the editor-in-chief of it. So, you know.
What was the length of time between bottom of the barrel to EIC?
It really wasn't super long. And like what ended up happening was they had a dedicated EIC, and then he ended up kind of like getting phased out a little bit, and like just not on a personal level, but on a work related level, I would kind of butt heads with him on some things, and the uppers, I guess the upper management, I guess you would say, most of the time would side with me, and I think that frustrated him. But I mean, it wasn't anything, you know, personal. It was just what I thought was best for either an article or the website itself or whatever it was. So, you know, we kind of clashed heads on stuff with that, and then he just decided to move on. So there really wasn't a person there. And then I kind of saw that as my opportunity to be like, okay, you know, I can try and take over this. But I mean, at the same time, I'm still working a full-time day job. So like, it wasn't exactly the easiest balance, like whatsoever. But you know, when you have dreams of being able to do something that you really enjoy doing, as opposed to just, you know, doing it as a side hobby, you got to make some sacrifices and stuff like that. So
what was your day job while you were doing that?
I was a certified pharmacy technician for almost 12, 13 years. I ended up, when I was 18, I was still living at home, and I was going to community college, and my mom was like, you need a job. I was like, piss off. And like, I had worked like some jobs. Like I worked at Sonic when I was 16. I worked at Sam Goody. Sonic was a regular gig. Sam Goody was just a holiday gig, but you got really good discounts on stuff. So I was totally on board with it. Because they sold like music and movies and games for the younger kids in the audience who don't know what the fuck a Sam Goody is. But they even sold like, I remember buying a guitar there and I got like 40% off of my employee discount. I was like, fuck yeah. But mom was like, you need a job. And I was like, all right, I'll figure something out. And so she ended up having a friend that worked in an Eckerd drug as a cashier. And then she got me a job as a cashier. And I did that for a couple of months. And they were like, do you want to train to be a pharmacy technician? And I was like, no. And they were like, why? And I was like, I don't know. It seems like a lot of responsibility. And, at that time, I was phasing out of my party stage. Like I was like, if you would have said, like when I was a senior in high school, if you would have told someone, oh, RGT is gonna, well, my name wasn't RGT then.
Right.
But if RGT is gonna be a certified pharmacy technician, they're gonna be like, was he robbing the place or something like that? Like, I had a little too much fun during that time. But I also feel like that was good because all of my real delinquent shit, most of it I did when I was a minor.
Right.
And so it was like, even when I got caught and, my parents had to pick me up from the police station at like 3 a.m. in the back of my head, I'm like, well, at least I'm a minor here. So it's not going to cost you all that much. Like, we could probably work something out here. But so they were like, well, you make more money if you're a pharmacy technician. And I was like, oh, well, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So I did that for 2 years. And then a GameStop opened up right pretty much across the street from my apartment. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is where I got to be. Like, I just saw, they just put up a sign and there was a piece of paper on the door. It was like, if you want an interview. And so I was like, yes, I need an interview. I ended up taking less money, but I was like, whatever, I don't care. And at this time, I should preface, I completely dropped out of school because my parents moved to a different state and they were like, do you want to come with us? And at that time, friends, working, school, I was like, no, I'm just going to stay here. And they were like, okay. And they were like, well, I guess, can you afford an apartment? So I found a cheap apartment and they would help me out. If I was short on the light bill or something, my mom would help me out with that. But so I was living on my own and, taking less money kind of sucked, but I was like, I don't care because, this is going to be better for me, mentally, probably, I'll actually enjoy this. And man, it was just so, I almost feel like they prey on people who have that mentality because I was working 60+ hour weeks, not getting paid for that, just the full-time 40. We would have to stay late and, we gotta finish out this plan. We got to finish out this gondola and shit. We gotta do this, you didn't get it done during the workday. And it's like, well, how could I have? We were the busiest store literally in the district because before that, I know I'm talking a lot. Before that, the nearest video game store was 40 minutes away. You had a Walmart, you had a Kmart, which went out of business. You had the Sam Goody, which went out of business. But you didn't have a GameStop in our town, and the closest one was 40 minutes away. So when they came in there, I mean, we were always the number one store in the district. So,
Well, so you mentioned something about GameStop kind of preying on people. You think they prey on people's enthusiasm for games, or you think they prey on the ignorance of the young kids who are like, I just want to be around video games all day. I mean, then they get in and then you feel like people kind of get jaded. Like GameStop almost jades people once they kind of get in the industry. And then all of a sudden, like I was there for a midnight launch for Mario Wonder, which was really weird because it was kind of like probably going to be the last physical game I buy, which is crazy to think about because all these big box retailers are phasing out physical games. But you go in and you see the 45-year-old GameStop manager, and it's like he's been there like way too long. He hasn't advanced. But back to the original question of like, do you feel like GameStop does prey on gamers? I guess say ignorance.
100%, because the person who hired me was the district manager, and he hated me. He legitimately hated me because but he knew that I would be down for whatever. My title at GameStop was acting assistant manager. So what does that mean? Nothing. You do everything an assistant manager does with the hourly peasant wage. I
Right.
had keys. I was on conference calls. I was on all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I didn't care at the time because, you know, it was still fun. You meet all sorts of crazy people, you know, people come in. I remember this one kid came in with a plastic bag filled with Game Gear games and a Game Gear. He was like, I want to trade this in. I was like, bro, we don't take that. And so he was like, oh, okay. I was like, but meet me outside in 5 minutes. And so I went outside. I was like, you know, I can't do this in a store, but how much do you want for it?
Let's go.
He's like, I just want like $25. I was like, here's 30. Have a good one. And
Nice.
like, so yeah, we used to do some shady shit there because, you know, it was what it was. But I ended up, there was an incident there, and I ended up, they didn't terminate me, but they were cutting all my hours and taking my keys for something that I was, it really wasn't my fault. I'll tell you the story.
Please.
So this guy used to come in all the time, and everyone knew him. We didn't really know his name, but everyone knew him. He was a nice guy, but you could tell that like he probably didn't really play video games. He was just robbing people and bringing the product to us and taking cash every time. I just want cash, just want cash. So he came in one day, and it was just me. I'm working by myself, and he was like, y'all got any used Xbox 360s? I was like, I'm pretty sure I do. Let me run to the back and check. And he was like, okay. So I ran to the back and checked. Had like 2 of them or something. I came back out. I was like, yeah, I got 2 of them. And he was like, all right, I might come back later for one. I was like, all right, cool. He comes back later in the afternoon, and he's got a bunch of disc PS2 games. And so once again, now we're a little bit busier. I'm still by myself. So, you know, trade in the games. I'm like, you want cash, don't you? He's like, yeah, I'll take cash. I was like, all right. So give him his cash. He leaves. My shift ends at 5. I get a call from the manager, Alec, and he's like, bro, you got to come down here now. I was like, can't we just talk on the phone? He's like, dude, you got to come down here now. I was like, all right. So, you know, it wasn't far from my house. So I hopped in the car, got over there. I was like, what's up? And he's like, he said his name. I don't remember his name. And he's like, you know that guy? I was like, yeah, that's dude that comes in all the time, right? He's like, yeah, with just the games. I was like, yeah. He's like, did he come in today? I was like, yeah, he did. He was like, well, what did he do? Because we didn't have security cameras at this time. And I was like, he asked if we had a 360 in the back, and I wasn't sure. So I ran to the back and checked, and then I came back out, and then he came back later on in the day and traded in some stuff. He was like, did you happen to look at what he traded in? And I was like, PS2 games. He was like, did you notice anything about them? I was like, no. And he was like, look, the DM wanted to fire you. I was like, for what? And he was like, bro, he reached around the counter and grabbed a handful of PS2 games and then sold them back to you. And he showed me the games, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, oh shit, they're all like A through D, because the way that the games were put was literally like, here's the cash register, here's the counter, and the games were right here. There wasn't any sort of lock and key. It was literally just like a tray that had all the games on them. And I was like, oh fuck, dude. And he was like, I know you didn't do it on purpose. I know you had nothing to do with this, but they're trying to fire you. You know, I got it to the point of where, you know, they're going to put you on a temporary probation. You have to give me your keys, but I know that this was not your fault. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I can't afford, I got bills to pay and shit. I need to be working full time. You know, I sincerely appreciate you sticking up for me, but I can't afford to do that. And he was like, no, I understand. And so, I mean, I had no ill will to anyone that worked in that store or whatever. Just, it was the higher ups. Like, you remember the game that came out, 25 to Life, came out on the PS2 and the Xbox. That was the big pre-order game. And for one of the months, and we were on a conference call, and the DM, I was working by myself, and the DM asked me, he was like, all right, store, I don't remember what number we were. He's like, how many pre-orders are we working on and looking at for 25 to Life? And I said, none. And he said, what do you mean none? I said, none. I'm not promoting the game. He said, why not? That's our target game for the month. I said, because I don't think the game is going to be very good. And he was like, well, what does that matter? And I was like, if people want to pre-order it, they can pre-order it. I was like, well, I'm not going to stop someone from pre-ordering it, but if somebody asks me my opinion on it, I'm not going to recommend the game, because if you get one sale right now, that person pre-orders the game, picks it up and buys it, goes home and plays it, and the game is shit, like I think it's going to be, then I've ruined all sort of trust with that person. They're never going to listen to me again. I'm thinking long run here. And so, you know, he kind of got on my ass about it, but then the game came out. It wasn't a good game. And a lot of the managers in the area were upset that that was the game that they were promoting because people started to not trust them as much. And like, you know, it was just a bunch of weird shit like that. You know, it was a learning experience though.
Right. And it's so funny. So there's a lot there because you were the only one on shift when the guy came in.
Dude, 9 times out of 10 when I worked, I was only by myself. I was Black Friday. It was me and one other person in the morning. And this is when Black Friday was like hundreds of people waiting outside the store. Like it was, we would have lines out the door because there was no other video game store in town. So it was fucking crazy. And they just wanted the bear there, or we're going to cut your hours. I was like, why? We're making so much money for you.
Is there, just out of curiosity, how much did the guy, just if you recall, how much did he sell the games that you had back to you for?
Oh, I don't remember. He had a handful, though. It was a handful of games, but that was always what he had. He always had just like a handful of discs and stuff like that. So, you know, as a store, you're thinking, well, you know, this is good inventory. He's probably ganked them from someone, but, you know, it's not my problem. But, you know, you never think, because most of the people that I met throughout that store, I mean, there were super cool people. Like, I remember this one guy. I wish I stayed in contact with him. He used to come over to my apartment and stuff. His name was Ty, and he was just the funniest guy in the world. He really just played like Madden and Call of Duty and stuff. Right. But this was when the Xbox 360 was overheating a lot, and you know, you were doing the Red Ring. You were doing the towel trick and stuff. Oh, yeah. And he would come into the store, and just the way he would tell stories was so funny. He'd be like, "Yo, son, I'm sitting there, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm playing Madden. And then all of a sudden, I see a red ring. I was like, yeah. And he's like, I just want to play Madden. Why can't I play my Madden right now? What's with this red ring? So I took a towel. And he just stops. I'm like, yeah, I took the towel, right? Wrapped it around that bitch. Got it working. Finished the third quarter. It's like, all right, dude. Like, it's just so many different characters came into that store. And, you know, it was we had a really good, you know, clientele. We had a really good staff as far as like personalities were concerned. Like we would hang out outside of work like all the time. That was the good part of it. You know, the actual work, it did kind of make me a bit jaded towards that side of the video game industry, though.
That's so funny. Just those who know about the red ring, they know. And those who don't, you know, you missed a pretty amazing point in the video game space where you're talking about like a product malfunction, just not being built properly. The idea of your Xbox 360 just ending because of, you know, just overheating or whatever it was, and having to wrap, like the solution being having to wrap your video game console in a towel. Is like
to essentially overheat the thing to make it work. And I mean, it was all my personal one did it. But at that time, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we did some we managed to offset the lack of income with the trade-in policy, because like the trade-in policy at that time was literally a signature on a piece of paper. So I remember my buddy's DS, we played a lot of Metroid Prime Hunters online, and his L trigger broke. And I was like, well, give it to me. And he was like, okay. So he gave me his DS. And like, you could just say that, you know, somebody bought it. They didn't even ask you for a receipt. It could be somebody bought this from another GameStop in another area, and then he would just damage it out, and then the person would get a used one. So I just gave him like a used DS, and like, I was like, here, I damaged out that one. Don't worry about it. Cause like, you know, you had to do something. I remember my manager modded my original Xbox so that I could just put a disc in and burn the game onto a hard drive. So sometimes those mornings were great because I would just go into the store. I'd be by myself. And like, what came out on an Xbox this week? All right, we're going to put this in there. Doop-a-doo. Thank you very much. And you know, you found ways, but it was fun. But that manager, this is how stupid some of the people are. That manager ended up getting fired because we did a midnight opening We did. And we had like this big party. There was pizza and stuff like that. And there was a $500 gift card for whoever like won some sort of contest. I don't really remember what it was. And that motherfucker took the gift card and used it. And he used it. And I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? Because I came in one day and he was gone. And it was Alec who lived in he lived in the town that was like 40 minutes away where there was video game stores. They made him come over there and move. He actually moved to my apartment complex and they made him the manager. I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, he was a funny guy too. He was a very feminine dude, but like he was completely straight. So it was kind of like a bit of a mind fuck because he like you'd be like, you'd say something wild, he'd be like, oh my god. And it was just the funniest thing. And like everything was like, oh my god. And it was always like beforehand. So yeah, a lot of good memories from it. Just, you know, the work itself sucked.
Man, that's so funny. It's like you work at GameStop and you got it's like you learn, it's like being on the streets. You learn how to manipulate the system. You know, like which is outstanding. All right, so you're working at GameStop. At what point do you start talking about things on YouTube? Are you like, this YouTube thing seems to be pretty fun. Well, let's start making some videos about this, and you start talking about like retro games initially, right?
Well, that was much later.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the pharmacy gig, and then I started.
What was that like? Like you're working at a pharmacy. You're essentially a pill pusher at this point, right? You're divvying out your whatever, and you're handing them out. Like, talk about the experience there, because I would imagine just like dude showing up and handing out some, trying to, rip you off with Xbox 360s and PlayStation 2 discs. I'm sure there are people you were walking in and be like, I probably shouldn't be giving you these pills. Oh
yeah, no, 100%. But I mean, if you have a prescription or something for it, so I had a friend who, he got bad on heroin. And he came into the store and he was like, hey, I need some needles for my grandma's insulin. And I'm like, bro, please don't do this to me. And he was like, no, I'm serious. It's for my grandma's insulin. And he took the phone, he called her, he gave her the phone, and she said it. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, look me in the eyes, dude. I was like, don't do anything stupid, please. And then he, like a month or so later, he ended up passing away from a heroin overdose. So you would see all sorts of addicts and stuff like that. And that was when like Oxycontin was really starting to pop off. And the job itself, I didn't really care for the job, but it was, the money was okay. It wasn't like, I don't know why people think like a pharmacy technician is a well-paying job, like a pharmacist. Yes. But it was fine for what it was, but it was always kind of hard, seeing people, or, acquaintances or something like that, dealing with all sorts of stuff like that. But I did that, that was actually my last, day job. But when I started with Nintendo Enthusiast and I started to kind of, work my way up, I noticed they had a YouTube channel and had like 1,000 subscribers on there. So I was like, hey, I want to make videos. And they're like, do you know how to? I was like, nah, I'll figure it out though. They're like, okay. I literally bought a 360p webcam. I had a single lamp in my room and I just kind of positioned the lamp, and I had Windows Movie Maker. And I was like, here we go. This is going to be it. And so right at that time, Jason Lapine, they hire this guy named Jason who also lives in Canada. The website is based out of Canada. Mm-hmm. And this son of a bitch comes in. He's filming at ANC games as the backdrop. He's got lighting. He's got lapel mics. He's got all this stuff. Starts making videos right at the same time as me. I'm like, this motherfucker, he's trying to one-up me. He's trying to take over. But I could tell that his personality, he was more of an informative person, where I was more of a personality-based person. It's like, all right, we'll figure something out here. So I remember Peter Molyneux wrote a article that the Wii U wasn't a sexy system. I was like, okay, I could work with that. So I called up one of my exotic dancer friends. I was like, yeah, can you come over and film something for me? And she's like, yeah, sure. So like we did that, and I was like, oh, the Wii U is a plenty sexy system, and she's like holding the gamepad in front of her titties and dancing with the system and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure out a way to beat you motherfucker, because it was a competition at first, but it ended up we became very good friends from it. So the show is not pre-recorded, people. We ended up becoming good friends from it, and we kind of helped each other with making videos. So Nintendo Enthusiasts YouTube channel started like doing well. We got 10,000, 20,000. I think we hit 50,000 on there, and it was going really well. But now I'm doing videos, I'm writing stuff, and I'm working full time, and I'm just fuck. So I need something. Something needs to happen for me. Something, because I can't keep doing this. Like, it was literally, you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you're checking your phone, you're checking the work computer for anything happening.
Right.
You're on the drive home, you're formulating a video idea, you come home, you throw something in the microwave, you film the video, you edit the video, you upload the video, you finish your food, and the next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock and you're in bed and you're doing it all again. So I ended up starting a side channel, just like a personal channel, because everyone had their own sort of personal channel back in, I want to say it was 2016, 2017. And like, I had no real sort of aspirations or goals for it. I just wanted something where I wasn't necessarily confined to just one topic, because obviously on Nintendo Enthusiast, you could only talk about Nintendo related stuff. And at that time, there was a lot of retro, like interesting retro stuff happening. Like the retro VGS was a thing. There was a lot of new retro games coming out. So I was like, well, I can't really talk about it there. Let me start my own sort of little side channel thing. And then that ended up, bringing us here.
Nice. Well, so, okay, I got a lot here. So you've been on the YouTuber side, you've been on the game journalist side, right? Describe the difference between a game journalist and being a gamer on YouTube, because I think you've described, actually in your latest video, you described how you don't really see eye to eye with gaming journalists, right? And I feel like there is some sort of, there's a wall between the two, right? Like, there's the gaming journalists who are like, I'm a journalist. Then there's YouTubers like, yeah, I talk about video games, right? Do you feel like there's almost a rivalry between the two?
I think a lot of gaming journalists, I kind of equate it to like, newspapers versus the internet. Newspapers were the biggest form of traditional media, magazines, crap like that. And then the internet came around, and, you started to see those people fight back against the internet because, oh, they're not real. We're real journalists and stuff like that. And, I feel like whenever what you're doing is starting to diminish and you're seeing another form of what you're doing starting to rise and become more popular, you go into defense mode or something like that, and you're like, you try to discredit. I mean, how many times do you see websites try and discredit YouTubers who might not even be gaming YouTubers? They're just trying to write like some smear piece to cause an adpocalypse or something like that, so that the mighty YouTuber doesn't start to dwarf them. I think they could still both coexist in the same space, because there's always going to be people that gravitate towards certain individuals. But the problem is, I think a lot of gaming journalists don't realize that you have to kind of cultivate a personality, or at least have a personality, in order to do YouTube stuff. Because yes, there's exceptions to the rule of just plain Jane people who are very successful. But for the most part, I feel like people tune in for a personality and whatnot. And like, gaming journalism is just very different, because there's a chain of command. What you write and what your score is might not be what ends up getting printed out, because there's an editor in chief who's looking at that and saying, well, your score doesn't match your words or something like that, which I think can be a good thing. But I just feel like on YouTube, you have so much more freedom. You know, you're not representing a brand or something like that. You know, you are the brand. So it's what you got, and it's all reflective on you, whether it's good or bad. And I prefer that, because I remember specifically, Jason was writing an article on the website, and I fucking hated the article. I was like, this sucks ass. Like, this isn't a good look for the website. And so we ended up getting in a scuffle over it, you know, just talking shit back and forth or whatever. Nothing major. We didn't come to blows or anything like that, but you know, and it was just like, that was kind of a realization for me. It's like, you know, I kind of, maybe I don't like having to represent something that's not fully me.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot there in what you just said. And you're right. The idea of the chain of command, and that's actually exactly why I've done what I've done over the years, is the for better or worse, I feel like I can do it better than other people. And, you know, that was the origin of Screw Attack and everything else in between. And, you know, even now with side scrollers, you know, getting going with this, golly, there's a lot there. It's great. You initially started, you know, talking about retro games, and you shifted to, you know, more modern games and stuff. Do you feel like, or like a retro gaming channel? I mean, I would say some people, when you look online, people will categorize you as a retro gaming YouTuber, even though you talk about a lot of different things, right? You talk about Nintendo and Sony, and you know, you'll talk about Atari or whatever. But do you feel like a solely based retro game channel, when I say retro, I mean something built around, I would say the Super Nintendo, early PlayStation 1, N64. Do you feel like those channels could be successful today, built solely around retro gaming content?
Like a channel just starting up?
Yeah, today.
Depends on what your definition of successful is, but
make a living.
Oof, that's tough. That's kind of tough, I feel, just because of, you know, market saturation. Mm-hmm. You know, how many times can somebody review WWF Raw for the Sega Genesis while, you know, adding a new point to it or something? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just focused, I think there's been a lot of successful retro channels and like the reselling stuff, which, I mean, I'm sure you remember this, when there was a time where resellers were the fucking devil.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But now they're just welcome with open arms. So, I mean, hey, secure the bags. I sold my collection to a reseller. I have no qualms about that, but it's funny how like morality in retro gaming shift. But I don't really consider myself a retro channel. Like, I'm just an old guy. So like I have a lot of retro gaming like memories and stuff. But honestly, the retro gaming community is like one of the worst communities in the world. And so like just the vitriol and hatred for a person that you don't know. I remember I made a video a couple months ago, maybe a year ago or so. I lose track of time, about Sega Saturn games that I liked. And I'm scrolling through Facebook, and somebody shared it in a Sega Saturn group that I guess I was in. And all the comments were just like, fuck this guy. He sucks. I hate his videos. You know, he made this video just for clickbait views. He probably doesn't even own a Saturn. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you are a 40 plus, 50 plus year old person sitting on an internet forum getting angry about a Sega Saturn video. Like, I don't understand like the disconnect. And you know, it's bad in all fandoms. You know, wrestling fandom is bad. Video game console, you know, the console warriors, you know, PlayStation's best, Xbox best. It's bad in there. But just I guess the retro thing, you would expect it to be more of a relaxed environment because most of the people involved in it are older. But no, it's not. Like, it's just crazy to me.
You would think that, yes, over time you would develop some sort of maturity, but the problem with that is you're dealing with people's nostalgia. You're dealing with people's childhood. So when you say this game, WWF Raw on the Sega Genesis was a mediocre video game, and I didn't like the way the Ultimate Warrior did whatever. People were like, no, Ultimate Warrior was the best because when I was 12 years old, I would hit my brother with a suplex in it. It was so good in that game, and I could beat the championship, whatever. And that's the big issue, is you're dealing with nostalgia, and people don't like that because their childhood was the best.
Right?
It's very scary. Why? Okay, do you feel like that's with the retro gaming community as a whole? Do you feel like that's changed over the course of time? Like, I don't feel like it was always that way, because that's how Screw Attack got a start as well. A lot of people would say I'm like a retro gaming guy because they equate me to videos I did like 15 years ago, right? But obviously I'm the same way in that I'm 42 years old. I grew up with those games, so I can obviously talk at length about those games and provide personal stories. But I don't feel like it was always that way. Do you feel like there was a big moment, or when was the cultural shift in the retro gaming community that changed it to like place that was super fun and hobby to, if you don't like what I like, you're the devil?
I think when money got involved, I think some of the people don't like it that, someone can talk about a retro game, a channel like GameSack or something like can exist just talking about old video games. And I think people don't like to see really anyone be able to be successful at something that's supposed to be a hobby. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like the gatekeeping has gotten so much worse over the years with it. And I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand the shift in mentality or something. But like, I always like to look at the people that are talking bad about me, if I see it. And like, I'll go to like, I'll look at their Facebook or I'll look at their Twitter account. And it's just like, it's always the same sort of thing. Like, just miserable people. And it's just like, whatever, dude. Yeah, no, fuck the game chasers. You don't make it. I mean, you're out there begging for pennies, doing a little dance. She ain't what she used to be. Ain't what she used to be. Ain't what she used to be. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, like, and those channels, they just get so much vitriol and hatred towards them. And it's just crazy. Like, bro, it's just video games, man. Like, relax. There's more important things to worry about.
No, there's not. It's my childhood, you son of a bitch.
like that's a lot of that comes from that. But and I mean, I've met tons of good people in the community, and it's just, we're in an age where like the most negative stuff is the stuff that gets amplified and not necessarily the positive stuff. So,
all right, well, let's talk about your game collection, because you said you sold it off, but it looks like you're accumulating more behind you. Let's talk about this. So you had a game collection. I mean, it filled your background for a long time, and you eventually sold it off to a private collector. You've been pretty public about the price, and it was a nice little chunk of change. How did that happen? What was the realization of like, okay, it's time to sell my games. It's time to sell my collection. Was it a money issue, or were you just like, this is taking up way too much space? And let's go and start there.
So a lot of people think that it was because of when I was in the hospital, and I accumulated a sizable hospital bill. But no, that actually had absolutely nothing to do with it. It was a matter of this stuff is sitting on a shelf, and I have no memories with this. I didn't have a UN squadron, but if I did, I would burn it just to spite Billy.
Don't you talk bad about UN squadron. Don't you?
Just like looking at these games, it's like, did I ever play this as a kid? No. Okay, so why do I own this? So, people saw what they saw of my collection, but they don't realize that, in my little arcade room over there was tubs of just stuff that I've accumulated over the years, games, all sorts of just crazy nonsense. And it was just like, I can't even display this stuff. Like, there's so much of it, I can't even display it. Why do I have this? So I was like, you know what? And one of the things was space. I was like, I want some more space. I want to have essentially like 2 filming areas where I can, do different, like a top down shot as opposed to, because like this is all very stagnant. Like this setup I have right here, like there's a button for the camera that I press and there's a light right there. But I wanted to have something where I could do like top down shots where it's like me showing something. And it was always such a hassle to like set something up like that. So I was like, I want out. Money for it is good right now, and I want out. And so like what you see here is like I just have it very spread out so it looks a lot fuller. The second bookshelf, because I had 3 of these bookshelves filled to the brim, and then all of the other stuff. But like, if you look at the second bookshelf, there's like Mario cereal there, a piece of the aggro crag from Guts, some controllers that I got sent from companies. There's a Mario figure.
I'm sorry. Can you please stop and pull out the aggro crag right now? Because I need to see that.
It sucks, dude. It's like this. It's like this big.
Is it from the show itself? Is it one of the trophies, or was it just like a fake thing somebody made?
It's like a thing that they did for like a grab bag at a Comic-Con, I think. So it's just like a small little replica. Yeah. I didn't realize it when I bought it. But like, that's a bunch of stuff that's not video games. Like everything here like has memory. I used to sit in my grandma's basement because I had a TV down there because we lived there for a couple months before we moved down south, and I would just listen to the themes of all the wrestlers. And I remember the TV was up on an angle, so I had to look up, and I ended up hurting my neck doing it. Toy Story, I remember playing this a ton as a kid.
So you didn't sell anything that had any sentimental value to you?
No, that's I kept all of that.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to keep, every single thing. Well, except like, the more modern stuff. I kept most, well, I shouldn't say most. I kept about 50% of like my Switch collection, and stuff like that. But it was also like, if I can emulate this, why do I have this physically?
Right.
Like, I don't care. I legitimately have no attachment to this. So let me get rid of it, make some money. And yeah, I have zero regrets about doing it. It gave me some more play money to finish up my Hasbro's collection that I had been sleeping on. I was stuck at like 70 for like 2 years. And I was just like, I want to finish that out. And
so you went from collecting one thing to collecting something totally different.
Kind of, because when I was a kid, we weren't we didn't really have money. So like I would go to school and my friends would have like 5 or 6 X-Men toys. I didn't have one. With the Hasbros, kids would have a bunch of them. I had one. It was the Ultimate Warrior Series 1, and it was a jumper, and for some reason the top of his head tasted like maple syrup. I do not know if I stuck his head in maple syrup to make it taste like that, but I used to chew on his head all the time because it tasted delicious like maple syrup. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I had one of those. Ghostbusters, I had one of those. So like, I guess my adult life, because now like that wall, like you can see some Ghostbusters figures back there. That wall is all X-Men and Turtles, the Hasbro stuff. I was just like, well, I'm going to buy the shit that I didn't really get as a kid just to kind of, appreciate it now. Bunch of Batman figures here. And it wasn't because, my parents were like, no, you can't have it. It was just, we can't afford it. So
what was the, when you sold off your collection, what was the rarest item that you sold that was a part of it?
Probably the Panasonic Q GameCube. I would say that was probably one of the rarer things in it, just because it was in very good condition. Trying to think of something else.
I'm looking that up online. I never heard of this thing before. This is a limited edition. It has a DVD player attached to it as well.
Yeah, it's built inside to it. It was made by Panasonic. It's basically a GameCube that released in Japan. That's like a premium GameCube. It's a really cool. Yeah, that's it. It's a really cool system. It has like that little screen on it and stuff. I didn't have the remote or the original controller, but they still sold for quite a bit of money. There's stupid John. Look at stupid Spawn Wave there. That was when he was a little chunky boy. Look at a little chunky boy there. But yeah, so I actually got that at a convention for like a really good price. And the reason I got it for a good price was because the guy could not prove that it worked, but he swore that it worked. So I was like, well, I'll just fucking kill you if it doesn't work. No, I'm just kidding. I was just like, well, I'll just talk shit about your store if it doesn't work, because he was from a store. But yeah, it ended up working great. So yeah, stuff like that, some rare like marketing stuff. And like, because I literally got to a point where I was almost done inventorying all the games. I hadn't even gotten into the systems yet. And I had a value of like an eBay value or a price charting value for what that stuff was worth. So I messaged the 3 people that I was talking with. I was like, here's what the value is right now without even me going into those totes. No consoles, no marketing stuff, no, none of that. Shoot me an offer on this and I might take it. If not, the price continues to go up. And so Phoenix Resale shot me an offer that I liked, and I was like, let's go. We're good.
Nice. Just for reference, the loose price for that Panasonic Q GameCube console is, according to price charting, about $725. Pretty nice little. So that's obviously with the controller and all that stuff. So that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. I have a few rare items that I've thought about parting with. I actually cataloged out my entire collection. And I'm just not quite there yet. But I also realized that the retro gaming, there's going to be a point to where it bottoms out, right? It's still on the way out. And
I don't know. You would think so, but like, dude, when I was inventorying this stuff, like I had a general idea of what most of these games were worth. But like Sega Genesis, I don't know what the fuck happened with Sega Genesis, but all that stuff like doubled and tripled in value to what I thought it was going to be. And I was like, when did this happen? Like, it's so weird. Like NES stuff has definitely cooled off.
Yeah.
To a point of where it's pretty much, pretty flat. But like some systems are still going up crazy.
That's awesome. I love retro game. It's not that I love retro games or retro game collections. It goes back to the nostalgia thing.
Right.
The nostalgia thing for me is like, I love the games that I played when I was a kid. Well, of course, everybody loves the games they played when they were a kid, right? And I think you said publicly, you said you sold it for like $40K. Is that right? Something like that?
It was actually a little less than that, but
cool. I don't know where I saw that, but not that it really matters. It's your business, but I just think it's interesting to kind of see the value attached to these for sure. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I could have made, like, if I pieced it out, I would have made like way more fucking money, but I was just like, I don't want to. I don't want to take the time to list all this crap. Like, I just want it in one shot.
Yeah, the effort is to do it. Just get it in, get it out. And he packed it all up, right? Or did you have to do all that as well?
I did most of it for him just because I had just moved like a year and a half ago. So I still had all the totes that I put the stuff in from when I moved. So I was like, oh, well, I don't give him the totes. I don't care. He'll need them more than I do. So I just filled up most of the totes, and then he did some of them. And then he flew in, he stayed the night at my house. He was going to get a hotel. I was like, you're kind of scrawny. Like, worst comes to worst, I'll fucking, break your neck. But he was a super cool guy. Just very nice, low key. And then the next morning we loaded up the truck, and then he was on his way.
Awesome. That's great. All right, we'll continue talking with RGT in just a second, but first I want to get to some of these super chats and donations, and we're gonna continue on in just a minute talking about wrestling. We're gonna talk about SpawnCast. We're gonna talk about your health scare. We're gonna talk about all these things. But first, Matthew came in with a $4.99. Says, "I hope your grandma is doing well, Sean. I miss the Sundays with you and Jay."
Yeah, Jay wanted to go on to other things, and so. That was pretty much it. Yeah, grandma's good. I saw her. We'll actually see her tomorrow because we got funeral service, but I mean, she's not the one that we're
I was
seeing.
gonna say, hopefully not for the last time.
My godfather passed away about a little over a week ago.
Oh,
so yeah, we're having
Sorry to
a
hear
thing
that.
for him tomorrow. Yeah, she's doing good.
I'm glad you'll see your grandma again. That's good. John came in and says, "What's up, Sean? Buenos dias." No, thanks, John. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Console Fanboy says, "Hey, Sean, sorry about the video I did. It's just jokes. Don't be mad. I still love you, and you're still the best. I just needed views. I'm desperate. RoboCop does suck, though. Way too much walking."
It's I was just fucking around on her video, dude. RoboCop is awesome.
Melver came in and says, "F the Game Chasers." There you go. Just so everybody knows. Dan came in and says, "RGT 85. I enjoy watching your videos about anything. Keep it up, bud. I hate the Facebook groups on retro gaming community. They're the worst to me."
Yeah, they're a special breed.
And Shamsa, who I know Shamsa, came in with the $1,000 direct donation. Thank you, Shamsa. And Shamsa, you're going. I got to get you up. I got to get you up with the orange. Can I please get some orange crowns in the chat, please? For Shamsa says, "It's so amazing seeing two of my favorite YouTubers in a podcast. Let's stinkin' go, Shamsa. Thank you very much." Now, RGT, the one thing about having your background is you don't have a sweet wall to put things on. So look at that. Yeah. Look at it right there. Going up there. That's awesome, Shamsa. Thank you so much. Right there.
Shamsa's the legend. She's known well around all these parts.
She is an absolute goddess. Not to be outdone, Shamsa came back one more time with a $500 direct donation. Says, "This is for the maple syrup story." Shamsa going on the wall twice today. Will we make it a triple with Shamsa? That's insane. I'm gonna draw a little thing of maple syrup on this, just for y'all. This does not look like maple syrup at all, but that's okay. Here's the little maple. This kind of looks like a pear with a. That looks really, really bad. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Shamsa, there you go. Look at it. There you go. It's really bad. Just put it out there. All right. All right. Okay. Let us continue. Shamsa, thank you very much. That is incredibly generous. And as well as everybody, thank you so much for your support. Those donations allow us to take a break from our regular programming and hang out and chat with friends. Okay. Let's get back into this. Let's talk about your health scare, because you did have this is a big deal. I mean, anytime you're dealing with health, I mean, let's talk about that. Because I don't know, just talk about that, man. The whole experience. How did it start? When did you realize something was wrong? Did you go to the doctor?
So it was very bizarre how it happened. I have horrible sleep patterns, and so I mean, they're better now, probably because the issue has been somewhat rectified. But so I was supposed to go to my grandma's house for lunch to see her and my grandpa, and on a Sunday. And Saturday night, I couldn't sleep for shit. And so it was like 7 a.m. I'm still awake. So I texted her. I was like, "Hey, I'm probably going to come by, a bit earlier at like 10. I'm not feeling too well. I got a pretty bad earache too." And she's like, "Okay." So I went over there at like 10. Hadn't slept. Felt like shit. My ear was killing me. And like the ear pain started going into my jaw. And like I couldn't really like eat or anything. I was like, "I don't think this is good." And she was like, "Well, stop by the urgent care." I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So there was an urgent care kind of between her house and my house. And so I stopped there. I went in and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling too great today." I'm like, okay. So luckily there was nobody else there like waiting or anything. So they took me in the back, and the nurse is like, "All right, I'm going to take your blood pressure." And she's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay." And she takes it and she kind of looks at me and she was like, "Oh, let me take it again." I was like, "Okay." She takes it again and she looks at me. She's like, "Do you feel okay?" I was like, I'm saying my ear hurts, and like now it's kind of into my jaw, and I'm kind of tired. And she's like, "I'll be right back." So she leaves, and then
that's got to be pretty alarming when she's like, "Are you feeling okay?" And you're like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Hold on." I just imagine a slow turn.
So
okay.
the doctor that's there comes in. She's like, "Hey, how you feeling?" I was like, my ear hurts. It's going down into my jaw. And she was like, "I'm gonna take your blood pressure one more time." And she's like, "Okay." I was like, "Okay." She takes it and she's like, "You need to go to the ER right now, or else you're not gonna make it." I was like, "Make it?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Your blood pressure is 220 over 140, and you're probably about to have a heart attack, and you might not make it." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, can I drive?" And she was like, "No, we can call you an ambulance." I said, "No, you will not. I do not have insurance." I'm like, "All right, let me make some calls." So I called my grandma's nephew. We call him Uncle. I call my Uncle John because he lives close by. I was like, "Yo, are you in the area?" He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" I was like, "I don't know. The ER lady says I'm like dying or something, or the urgent care lady says I'm dying. I need to go to the ER." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, can you come pick me up?" So he comes, he picks me up. We go to the ER, and they were already expecting me there. And so they bring me in, and they're running all these tests and stuff like that. And I'm expecting to go home that night. And no, it wasn't like that. So they ran a bunch of tests trying to figure out, what was going on and why that was happening, and trying to get my blood pressure down and my heart rate down. My pulse rate was through the roof. They did EKGs and stuff, and they did a thing. I still have a scar from it, where they like inject you with dye into your veins to see if there's like blockages or something. And thankfully there wasn't any blockages, but I had like, my heart was at like 20% functioning, and you're supposed to be at like 50 or higher.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh." And they were like, "Yeah." And so like the second day I'm like, "Can I go home?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Why? Let me go home." And they're like, "No, you can't go home." So on the third day they let me go home. I stayed there 2 nights, and I actually had a fucking horrible panic attack that night when I was home. I guess it was just like the stress of everything and thinking about it, to the point of where it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I called my grandma and I was like, "I think I'm going back to the ER. Like I can't shake this feeling." And so she had she called my aunt and uncle, because my aunt's like a cardiology nurse at actually the hospital that I was at, which, funny story, that hospital that I was at, my mom used to work at. And I remember going to see her when I was a kid. So fucking full circle on that. But they came over, and she kind of was just like, "Well, take your blood pressure medicine, again, because you're very high right now." And my uncle was like, "Here, I got this edible for you. Just eat this real quick and you'll mellow out." And I was like, "Okay." So it was tough, man. It was tough because now I have to go to a cardiologist. Now, when I would, getting up.
Oh, I lost you. Lost you again. Sure, take your time.
Okay, should be good.
There you go.
Yeah, I hit the cord with my foot, but
No
like,
worries.
it was just.
Oh man. Hey, I'd rather have a dead mic than a dead you. All right, I'll tell you that much. Oh man, it's crazy.
Okay,
Well,
we're good.
we're good. Yes, there you go.
All right, I'm not gonna touch anything here, but like, it was just, it was it was bad for like a couple of weeks, and I was still making videos, and people like got pissed about that. But it's like, bro, I gotta work. Like, this actually helps me. This takes my mind off things. But like, I was just so weak. If I got up off the couch, like my head was spinning. Sometimes I would fall down and stuff, and I was just fucking miserable. My mom came up to stay with me for a couple days, just to make sure I was okay. But yeah, it was pretty rough, man. It was a definite wake up call. And the funny thing was, like 2 weeks before that, I'd quit smoking. And then once I quit smoking, it's like my health just went right down the shitter. It's like, cigarettes back. I'll deal with that. But I mean, it was just
Well, okay. Well, what they say caused it, the blockage. I mean, you're only using 20% of your heart. Was it food? Was it diet? Was it lack of exercise? Was it sedentary lifestyle? What was the whole
It was,
diagnosis from it?
I hadn't been to a doctor in like 6 years, and it was just my blood pressure was higher than it should have been, and basically my heart was just fatigued. You know, it was having to work too hard. As far as, and also, you know, the lack of sleep and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But here's the funniest fucking part. All right. So I had a follow up with the cardiologist like 3 days after I got out of the hospital. So I go there and my ear is still hurting. And I'm like, dude, can you give me something for this ear? He's like, well, I can't, but you know, you can go to the urgent care downstairs. And this is a completely different place. So I'm like, fine. And so I go downstairs to the urgent care, and I'm sitting there waiting, and the doctor comes in, and she looks at me. She's like, how you doing? I was like, you don't recognize me, do you? And it was the same fucking doctor at another urgent care place. She was like, oh my God, what the hell happened to you? So I told her everything. I was like, you never gave me anything for my fucking ear. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And they never gave me anything for my ear in like the hospital or anything like that, just because they thought, I don't know, like maybe I'd burst something in my ear or something because of my heart. But yeah, it was, you know, you make the most of it. Like, you know, they did give me, you know, Percocets and shit for my ear, so you know that was nice. But yeah, it was rough. But now, like, you know, I had a follow up. They did you know, I've had subsequent follow ups. They've done you know, EKGs, and they did I don't remember what it's called, but it's like an ultrasound essentially. Like they put like gels on you and they move it around, and the heart's now back over 50%, and you know, on the way up, and it's healed. And you know, now I only have to go like every 6 months to the cardiologist just for little checkups here and there. So
What have you changed in your lifestyle since then? I mean, are you eating better? Are you exercising more? Or are you
I'm eating a little better, exercising pretty much every day, and just trying to relax more, sleeping more, because really the cause of like my sleep stuff was like because of the fact that like sometimes at night, like I'd feel my heart like beating out of my chest, and I was just like, oh, I just must be amped up. You know, I never really put 2 and 2 together. So yeah, it was rough. And I think, you know, the quitting smoking thing, probably, you know, the timing of it probably also played a role in stress levels and stuff like that. It was a perfect storm, like a negative perfect storm,
right,
of just a bunch of shit all at once. And it was just like, fuck. But you know, you live and learn. I'm still here. Ain't found a way to kill me yet.
Well, let's move on to another one of your hobbies here. Something at least that appears to be a pretty big hobby. And I would like to talk about the New York Knicks, but I actually want to talk about pro wrestling.
Fucking great game. The big four: Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook, bodied by a bunch of Villanova boys. Proceed.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. Let's spend a couple of minutes on the Knicks and basketball. I know. Look, people like gamers. They don't like sports. It's like, screw you. Yes, absolutely, people do. I love sports. I love sports so much. What's best case scenario for the Knicks this year?
I mean, realistically, they could have been in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I don't think the East has gotten all that much better. I think it all depends. It all depends, because RJ Barrett right now is playing all-star level basketball, which you did not see from him last year, at least consistently.
What's this? His third year? Third year?
Third year.
Yeah. So I mean, that's usually when people make the jump.
Like he is exceptional now. Like not a doofus anymore. If Randall can play like he did last night, which was finally he played a good game. Jalen Brunson, you know, he's always pretty much locked in.
I know.
But I think the Knicks have one of the best, if not the best, benches and 2 centers in the NBA right now. As far as true centers are concerned, you know, you're going out there, you're setting screens, you're getting rebounds, you're blocking shots, you're stealing the ball. You're not fucking hawking up threes and stuff like that. Although Hartenstein does once in a while, just because he can occasionally hit them. But like just a traditional centerpiece, like if you watch Mitchell Robinson right now has more offensive rebounds as an individual than I think he's fourth. If you compare all the teams, he's number 4 by himself. So there's like 28 teams that don't have as many offensive rebounds as that one man does this season. Like, it's crazy, dude.
Well, it means
it's crazy.
Means he's missing a lot of shots and getting his own rebounds.
No, it means that the fucking Knicks can't shoot a goddamn thing.
Right.
But no,
right.
I think it's gonna be a fun season. You know, last night was definitely a game where it was like, this is gonna kind of dictate what's going on. You know, okay, let's get the bullshit out of the way. This is going to sort of dictate. You're going up against a team of, you know, snipers and, you know, someone that's supposed to be one of the best in the West. Show them what you can do. And I was very happy with that last night.
Right. But you also lost to the Pelicans. So
talk to me in a week and I'll be out playing in traffic in the middle of a busy street over the Knicks.
Right. All right. Who do you have in the NBA Finals this year? Knicks and
Denver.
Yeah. Denver's they're legit. Denver's,
barring an injury, Denver's going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk some pro wrestling.
Yes.
All right. You have, I've seen your belts that you've had, your replica belts that you've had. Are you a current day wrestling fan, or are you like, when did your fandom of wrestling come into your social consciousnus? Were you a late 90s guy with the NWO and WCW versus WWF, or
I was 3 years old. I was fucking 3 years old, glued to the television, watching fucking Hulk Hogan on, you know, because we lived in the Northeast, so we had the MSG channel. So whenever they would run MSG shows, they were always on TV on the MSG channel, and that's where I first saw it, and I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And so, I mean, I was pretty consistent from like 88 to like 95, and then I kind of fell out. It was all WWF for me at that time frame, because WCW was to me, when you lived in the Northeast, you know, WCW, oh, it's a bunch of hicks, you
bunch of hicks down there in Georgia.
It's you know, it's B tier. It's not the cream of the crop. But then I ended up moving to the South. And so you're seeing some more WCW, but then when the NWO became a thing, it's like, oh fuck yeah, this is the greatest shit in the world. So got heavy into the NWO, man. It was crazy. And for whatever reason, at our apartment complex, they our cable never charges for pay-per-views, because my parents let me order a WCW pay-per-view with my buddy, and I overheard them talking when the cable bill came in. They were like, they didn't charge us for that. And I was like, what's that? We got that for free? Well, then we're getting another pay-per-view. And so we would get all the pay-per-views, and they never charged us anything. And they couldn't figure it out. So it was always at my house, you know, when there was a WCW pay-per-view, come on through. And I watched some WWF at that time, but I just preferred like the NWO shit and, you know, Goldberg, DDP, all that sort of stuff. Then I was also a fan of ECW at the time, but it was just hard for me to see it. Yeah, pre YouTube stuff. And so then as time went on, you know, falling in and out, I would say, like when WCW and ECW got absorbed by the WWE, you know, I'd watch it here and there, but I actually got back into it in like 2005-ish, when I remember we were going out to a bar, and I was just flipping through the channels, and it was when Sabu came in and beat up John Cena and then did the triple jump leg drop from the ropes to the announcer's table and just like murdered Cena. I was like, holy, Sabu's here now. This is fucking great.
Was that,
so then
was that one night only, or was that an ECW invasion?
That was the invasion that led to that stuff. So then they ended up doing like the ECW branded WWE stuff. And at the start, it was just like 90% ECW guys. So they did a show like 4 hours away from us. And I told my buddy, I was like, fuck, we got to go to this, bro. He was like, I don't really want to go. I was like, nah, bro, we're fucking going to this. And we had such a good time. We had front row seats and shit. Like, because, you know, it was only like a 2,000 person arena since it was a house show. But it was so much fun. And so, yeah, just as far as the modern stuff is concerned, I follow it, but I watch a lot of like smaller independent shows nowadays. You know, I watch AEW pretty somewhat regularly. WWE, you know, I watch the premium live events and stuff like that. You know, I try to.
You've been sucked into the terminology.
I've been
premium live events.
No, but like, you know, I follow it pretty good, I feel, but I definitely prefer like the older stuff as far, you know, nostalgia. And then you know, just the smaller independent shows like GCW and Circle 6, you know, stuff like that, you know, just kind of like who's up next, you know, who you can expect to see coming into these, you know, bigger promotions in the future.
Did you watch the Netflix wrestlers show or the?
I binged that. I was gonna watch. I was like, oh, I'll just watch the first episode. I ended up watching the whole thing.
What are your thoughts on Ohio Valley Wrestling and OVW?
I think it's interesting.
They survive? Was it OVW? Is that
yeah? So it's OVW. Yeah, they'll survive. They'll be fine. You know, obviously they're playing up to the camera a bit with some of that stuff, but nah, they'll be fine. I mean, they've been around for so long, and they have, you know, they're on Fight TV Plus. They upload their shows onto YouTube, and all that stuff gave them like a really good buzz. You know, that I think that was the most important thing, is that it gave all of those people involved and all of those people, you know, behind the scenes a good buzz to where, you know, now they're selling out shows, no problem, you know?
Right. Of course. What are your thoughts on Roman Reigns? Do you think Roman Reigns is an all-timer, or
no.
Or do you think he's just a product of the current generation?
He's a product of one man's vision and something like that. Like, he's had like 50 title defenses in his 1,000-day plus run.
Right.
Like what's they had to make belts because he has the universal belt. So now they have to make another world heavyweight belt because he has this belt and he's not defending. Like, I understand that he is just, you know, he's doing what he's told essentially. So I don't necessarily blame the individual. And I think he's pretty talented as far as wrestling is concerned and somewhat telling a story. But no, he's just no. It's no. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't hate the man or anything like that, but I think so many people are burnt out on the whole, you know, Roman Reigns experiment, but I don't necessarily think it's ending anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Who do you think will be the person to dethrone Reigns?
I thought it was going to be Cody at this last WrestleMania, but it wasn't. And now they're saying that's what they're sort of working towards again. So I guess maybe it could be him. You know, it just depends. You know, he Roman also has, like, you know, he's dealt with leukemia, I believe it was. So it's like, you know, it's almost not fair to put him as the cornerstone when it's like, bro, he could, you know, something could happen to him, like, very serious, and then you've written yourself into a corner. Like, I think he would be better as, like, you know, a special attraction more so than the focal point. But that's just me.
All right. The Cody versus, like, what's happened with Cody? How he you know, we did the AEW thing, spent 3 years there, made his way back to WWE. It's really interesting to see how they've treated him as he's come back, right? They've treated him like a star. And I think they needed to do that. WWE did, because if they didn't, the people at AEW, when their contracts are up, they're going to look at that first deal and be like, hey, how do they treat him? Do they treat him like a star, or did they shelf him because he was a part of the bad guys at the time? So I think that was actually a really, really smart move. But I don't know. Cody Rhodes to me he's just a dude. I don't really get his deal. I don't really get it. He's always just been a guy to me, with a name.
Yeah, I mean he's enjoyable, but like the problem with him in AEW was he didn't want to be a heel, and people were booing him, but he just wanted to be the face, and it's like, bro, you gotta, not that my opinion matters. I sound like the guys in the retro gaming groups on Facebook,
Right.
but it's like you gotta kind of roll with the punches, and you can still tell your story as a heel, but like he just didn't want to do it. And so I like Cody. I think he could put on a really good match, which is important. But as a top guy, I could buy it. I could buy it at least for a little while. But I do think that there's other talents that they should be looking at that are maybe on more of a restricted time limit because of their age or something like that.
Right. Let's move on from wrestling. Wrestling's fun, but I want to talk about let's talk about SpawnCast.
Okay.
Talk about the origins of the show, how you got involved, the whole everything, like from day one.
It's not going to be very glamorous. It was.
I want to hear all the dirt.
It was literally like I got a Twitter DM from this guy named Spawnwave, and he was like, "Hey, I do this show. Do you want to come on?" I was like, "Sure." So I went on, and he was like, "Hey," it was like me and a couple other people. He's like, "Hey, that went really well. You want to do it again?" I was like, "Sure." And like that was it. And then I just started showing up all the time, and then that was it. Like it literally, yeah. And I ended up shortly thereafter, when I went full time on YouTube, I ended up moving close to him without realizing it. So then we got to hang out more in person and stuff like that. And like I hate him, but like he's one of my good friends.
Love it. That's great. That's good stuff. I'm trying to think. So this was brought up on Twitter. I always like to say like, hey, I'm interviewing this guy. Do you have any questions? And I just like to read them off. So I'm going to read off a couple of them if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Because I think it's always important. But before I do, I want to read off a couple of these super chats. As Kyle says, Knicks in finals, Bucks have entered the chat.
Bro, okay. The Bucks did not look that great against the Knicks the other night, and the Knicks should have won that game. They beat themselves.
The Bucks lost some major when they lost Holiday. That is a major piece that is not on their team anymore. And Damian Lillard, he may be able to shoot from 85 feet, but it's not Damian Lillard from 5 years ago. I don't know.
And he doesn't play defense.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Jose says, why does he think the rant was wrong about Starfield? I guess you're speaking about the viral from Heels versus Babyface, the rant that went on with Starfield.
Oh yeah. I caught some heat for talking about that. Wrong isn't necessarily the word I would use. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I do not watch a lot of video game YouTube stuff just because it's like work with, mixing work with what I do. So it's kind of like more work. But that Twitter clip popped up on my timeline and I was like, holy shit. I guess it was because like I wasn't like super familiar with the guy, behind it. I was just taking this one clip out of context. But no, do I think it was a bit of an overreaction? Yeah. Do I think that he was probably playing up to the camera a bit? Yes. I mean, we all do it at some point in time. YouTube is a show. He's allowed to feel that way if he wants to feel that way. Did I think it was a big deal that it asked you your pronouns and then never followed up with it in the game? For me personally, no. But if he feels that way, that's cool. I just thought the reaction to it was without any context. It's like, whoa, holy shit. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like somebody just said, he gained 20,000 subscribers after that. Like, yo, it's show business, baby. It's show business. Like, fuck it.
Right. Yeah, I think for him, like people, you can get ripped online, but there's the old no publicity or all publicity is good publicity, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right? Yeah, and
dude,
the fact
I've had so many takes that people disagree with on stuff, and I'm just like, fuck, thank you for talking bad about me, thank you for this, that, or the other, because it all helps at the end, as long as it's not like something super like you killed someone and you hid the body for 20 years. If it's all just within the confines of content creation, yeah, 100%.
What's the you say you obviously everybody's kind of played something up at one point. What was the one thing that you look back on and you're like, yeah, I played that up a little too much?
I mean, it's tough for me to say because there's been a lot of things that I've played things up with. I don't know. I mean, you could pick a handful of stuff because I didn't like the Atari situation, and I definitely fed into that more so, and I took it personally, and I think there was something sinister going on that they actually tried with me. I don't really have too much to prove it though, so I won't really say it, but I'll tell you off air. But
sure.
Just that whole situation, kind of got out of hand. Soulja Boy, that was good.
Hold on, you had beef with Soulja Boy?
Well, it was during the Soulja Boy console situation, which
I had beef with Soulja Boy,
dude. That made that holiday season made me so much fucking money talking about Soulja Boy shit. But the thing was, somehow World Star Hip Hop found one of my Soulja Boy videos and they put it up on the website. And so now I have all these new people coming in, 70% of them are like, look at this fucking piece of shit. And like 30% of them are like, oh no, he's all right. So like, yeah, it was, yeah, as long as it's not something serious, if it's all within the video game sphere and, legality, it's all legal stuff, like, bro, if people are talking, that's the good thing. The time to worry is when nobody's talking about you, whether it's good or bad. If nobody's talking about you, then you got to worry.
Yeah, there you go. You see, I think that's the one thing that people don't like. They truly don't understand about this, right? And
yeah,
I think, we do a daily podcast and we talk about, I'd say there are things that we choose not to talk about because we don't care about them, right? Everything that we talk about, we do care about, but things that we care about, other people may not care about, right? And I think that's when they care about something and they feel you should care about it because it's important to them. It goes back to like the nostalgia thing or the allegiance thing with, Nintendo, Sony, whatever. Then all of a sudden they paint you in bad light. Somebody will paint you, well, how come you didn't talk about this? Or I can't believe you thought this way about this thing. And it goes back to the idea of these tribes that we're in. Everybody's in a tribe.
Yes, 100%.
Do you feel, and I've asked this of a lot of people over the, in interviews and such, but I feel like there's been a cultural shift in the gaming space. Do you feel like that's happened over the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
I think there's more pandering to stuff that is what you would believe, what Twitter would have you believe is the real world, when in actuality it's not really that case. And it's more so, I think it's more so just the people that are becoming involved with like game development or writing stories and stuff like that. Like, I don't understand the point of like shoehorning stuff in that doesn't make sense. Like, what, it could be any sort of thing. If you're shoehorning it in or you're retconning something, it's like, what's the point? Like, there's obviously, what I always think back to one of my favorite characters during the time frame when nobody really cared about stuff like that, but like Vamp from Metal Gear Solid 2, a black bisexual vampire, but he was the fucking shit, dude. He was so cool. And like nobody cared
Right.
that, because it made sense. He was a new character. They wrote him well. And then, he ended up coming back in Metal Gear Solid 4. But like when you take like Luke Skywalker and you're like, Luke Skywalker's gay now. It's like, what the fuck did I miss here? Like, it's just, it's so weird that like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like, I almost think that they just want to get reactions out of people.
I said this before many times, but my theory is that our generation took a lot of the words that are being used. People, you want to say you're racist, you're phobic, right? Those words, our generation really, that meant something to our generation, right? The idea of like if someone's like, hey, that guy's racist, you're like, whoa, stay the hell away from that guy, or that guy doesn't like gay people. Like, man, let's stay away from that people, right? And those words were later weaponized to the point to where people in like middle management were so scared that it gave people weaponizing those words power, which ultimately led to decisions of like, well, now Luke Skywalker is gay, and it's like, how did that happen? Because somebody in middle management didn't want to be called a whatever phobe or whatever, and the slope was very slippery, as they say. So
yeah,
but.
I'm getting corrected in the chat. They're saying he's Romanian. I guess it's because he's like a darker Romanian skin, and he's voiced by Phil Lamar. So that's why I equated that. My mistake. Please don't crucify me on a retro gaming forum.
Don't listen. They're coming for your ass.
I know. The tweets are being made right now. But that's one thing that I kind of pride myself in is I feel like a lot of YouTubers and just people on social media in general, they act like they're very good people and, I am a good person. Look at me. And then when some scandal comes out or something, like all of a sudden they're a piece of shit. Like I just come out, I'm like, dude, I am a fucking random ass motherfucker who got a camera. I am not the greatest person in the world. I have made mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. I'm me. If you like it, great. Hang out with me. If not, awesome. There's the door. And I feel like people just, they're so concerned, like, what does social media think? And then, when social media turns on them, it's like, oh, woe is me. It's like, bro, just who cares? Like, who cares?
It's not real life. Not real life. Like it's amazing. Have you had any cancellation attempts on you for thinking that Spyro was stupid or something? I don't know. I'm just throwing something out.
And if I have, I've ignored them. Like, people get mad at me sometimes for stuff I say. It's pretty much on live shows just because, sometimes we're not talking about video game related stuff. And it's just like, bro, this is just me. Like, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But, I think I've done pretty good for myself. So I must be doing something right. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. People always bring up, oh, well, Spawn Wave, you guys were like at the same, and then he blew past you. And it's like, yeah, he did, because he is better at YouTube than me. Like, what do you want me to say? He knows a different side of stuff, like the tech side of stuff that I don't really know or care about. And he's very even keeled, whereas I am more opinion focused. So I'd expect that. But I mean, it's not a competition between me and him or anything. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird.
I mean, I think when you say blew by somebody, it's like you have almost 500,000 subscribers, right? And his channel has, I'm looking at now, just over 700,000. That's not like blowing by. I would say those are two very comparable YouTube channels. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I want to circle all the way back before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this before the show, and you worked for Nintendo Enthusiast, and we were talking about their parent company before we got started, which was Enthusiast Gaming, which still exists. My track record with that company was I nearly was hired by them to more or less head their gaming division.
Who was the head of it at that time?
Well, I was dealing directly with Minash.
Okay, yeah. That's who I got put on with Nintendo Enthusiast. He was the one who hired me.
Okay. So Minash was the guy who was like the CEO at the time, and I was talking with them. It was probably a 2-week conversation. It wasn't anything really in depth, but it was. I had also done stuff for them up at EGLX, which was their gaming convention up in Toronto. I was their MC on their stage for the one before.
So then you've met Jason Lapine, because he was the one running EGLX during that time. Glasses, dark hair, kind of tallish. I mean, it's a lot of random white guys on YouTube, but there we go.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I interact with them, but that company is interesting because there was the you mentioned they got sold or something to this gamers group, and yesterday the enthusiasts kind of went haywire, which I'm going to actually probably be speaking with their former EIC on Friday on this show, which will be really, really great. But anyways, so Enthusiast, that's an interesting company. You had direct, you spent several years working for them. I'll say this. The one thing I've learned about dealing with companies in the space was there's a lot of people who are just, they're regular people. And then money gets infused into their product. And these are people who are just average people. And they go, well, now I got to be a CEO and I got to figure it out. And they have no idea what they're doing.
No, I think that's super fair, because that's exactly what happened. We had Nintendo Enthusiast, and at that time, that was the only Enthusiast website. And then we started to grow. We did Xbox Enthusiast, PC Enthusiast. I was like, hey, I know some PC gamers from Gaming Truth who are looking for work. I'll bring them in. So we brought them in and stuff like that. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And you could tell that Minash was the one, he was the head of it all. And I mean, I talked to him directly all the fucking time, like pretty much every day. But you could tell that it was growing and growing and growing. And he was like, what do we do with this? What do we do with this? And just trying to figure it out. But yeah, I really feel like that's a great analogy, because then came, EGLX, where Dreamcast guy got robbed.
Tell that story real quick, because that's outstanding.
So Jason is looking for people to go to EGLX. And I'm like, what about Dreamcast guy? He'll probably want to go. He's like, okay. So he hits him up. Max is like, yeah, sure, I'll come. And so he flies into Canada, Toronto. He gets off the plane, gets out of the airport. He's looking for a taxi, sees a taxi, walks over to the taxi, gets in the back. Taxi drives about 3 blocks, turns down an alley. The guy pulls out a gun. He's like, give me all your fucking money. And he's like, what? And he takes all of his money and shit. And so like an hour later, because I wasn't super close with Dreamcast guy at that time. Well, I should say we're like super close now, but like we're obviously friends and we talk somewhat regularly. But like at this time, we weren't talking super regularly. So Jason, who's running EGLX, he's like, what the fuck? And I was like, what? He calls me. He was like, dude, Dreamcast guy just got robbed. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he got in some fake taxi here or something like that. And they took him down the street. He's like, what do I do? I was like, I don't know, just give him some fucking money, dude. Give him $100, $200 or something. So he can buy some fucking clothes and have some food and shit. Like he took his wallet and like everything. Like it was a fucking nightmare for him. And I was just like, bro, I thought Canada's supposed to be a nice, peaceful place. And when dude fucking goes for the first time, gets robbed, like shit.
God, that's awesome. Did you ask him, Dreamcast guy? Did you ask him if he peed his pants? Because he probably would have peed. Like I got to be honest, some guy pulled a gun in a taxi, or what I thought was a taxi, and was like, hey, give me all your fucking money. I'd probably pee my pants.
I don't think he did. I think he was scared out of his mind, because that was when he was like real like skinny and shit like that, before he got into like working out and stuff. So like he wasn't throwing hands with this dude or nothing like that. Like it was just, yes sir, here you go sir, have a good day sir.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's funny. They're like, how do I respond? Well, I don't know. I just give him some money. I don't know.
Yeah, give him some money. And then he ended up having a decent time there, but Yeah, that shit was wild, dude.
Without his belongings, I guess.
Yeah.
He had to start over there. Oh my God, fucking Canada. It's great. Let's go and finish up with a couple Rumble rants. A dude came in, says it's not a question but a request. When will RGT 85 start mirroring over to Rumble? Need more normie content over there.
I guess, is there money on Rumble?
There could be if you live stream.
Okay.
You know, they have subscription service,
But there's not like ads on videos and stuff like that.
There is, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's not YouTube by any means,
Right.
but I would say for us, we stream to Rumble because number one, we believe in the mission,
Right.
the free speech mission. Number two, just casting the net as wide as we possibly can,
Right.
and hitting as many people as possible. We don't really care where people hear our message as long as it's there. So, if by the way, if you want an introduction to somebody over at Rumble, I'll gladly give it to you. So,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll talk to him.
Yeah. Dude says modern entertainment is proof of why you need to gatekeep. The problem lies in how you gatekeep. We were talking about gatekeeping earlier with the retro gaming community and stuff. So,
Right.
Excellent. Thank you, dude. Appreciate that. Alan came in and says Junkyard Dog was the best, but Rowdy. Rowdy.
In They Live.
Okay. Oh, okay. The movie was amazing. Shout out to Roddy Piper. Rest in peace.
Yeah, he was crazy.
And Black Metal Gamers wants to know what's your favorite worst album from an artist that you like. If that makes sense. Favorite worst album. You a big music guy?
Yeah, I am.
What are you into?
Everything but country. But like I'll fuck with like some Jolene from like Dolly Parton or stuff like that.
Right.
But just living in the South, like being a northern boy coming to the South, it was very hard for me to like I didn't, grow up listening to any of that. But yeah, dude, from like death metal to like 80s electronica music, I'm fucking all over the place. Worst album from a band that I like. What was the name escapes me? The shitty Metallica album with the tin snare. Was that Saint Anger?
I don't know. I'm not a Metallica guy. Never have been a Metallica guy.
I think it was Saint Anger.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, some kind of monster. Yeah, that album sucked.
Nodding wants to know. This is a great interview, guys. Craig, ask him about his Holy Grail Hasbro WWF figure. Please tell us about it.
So, I completed my retail Hasbro collection set a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, okay, I'm done. This is a lot of money. I lost money on stuff that hopefully I'll be able to get back because UK sucks, England sucks, Royal Mail sucks. But so I was done, and I was like, I'm done collecting. But there was 3 mail away figures that they did in the United States. There's a couple more overseas, but in the United States, they did mail away figures for 3 figures. One of them was an Undertaker, one of them was a Bret Hart, and one of them was a Hulk Hogan. The Undertaker one looks exactly like the standard Undertaker, except the hair is slightly longer and it is a lighter brown. But other than that, you can't really tell a difference. The Bret Hart, you can't really tell a difference at all. It just has a purple heart instead of a pink heart on the singlet. But they also released Purple Heart variants into retailers. So you could buy one and not even realize it. So then there's Hulk Hogan. The Hulk Hogan one was interesting because it actually has a it has a variant to the outfit. It's his WrestleMania 9 outfit when he comes out after Bret Hart loses to fight Yokozuna. So there's an obvious difference in that. And I was like, fuck, I gotta get that. So yeah, I ended up I found one for a very fair market value price, I feel. So yeah, I ended up buying it, and it's pretty cool.
Can we see him? Do you have him laying around?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's back there. Let me grab him.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, this is great stuff. Oh, good stuff, guys. Well, once again, I encourage you while RGT and grabs that, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button while you guys are here. And if you're new, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. We coming up on Thursday, I'll be doing a one-on-one interview with Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law. Looking forward to doing that. That'll be on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're back again with our regular show with Adam Krigler and Flawed TV. Looking forward to seeing you guys then. So once again, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Let's see what he's got. Oh, these are tiny. Oh, we lost your audio as well. Oh man, hit that cable, man. That's a tough one. There we go. It's not.
I think I'm back.
There you are. All right. So you actually have them in their original packaging.
Well, just this one. I have a few that are in the original retail packaging. You can't really, you can kind of see there's Crush. But most of them are loosey gooseys because retail packaging is crazy. But this one, the way that you could tell that it's an official mail away is by having it in the baggie, because the Bret Hart, you can't tell because there was the same one as a retail. And then, you could always make a custom of it. People make customs of these all the time. So the baggie is very, very important. So this is super rare. You could see prices on eBay, expensive shit, but I got a fair price on it from a reputable seller. So
wow. Yeah. Can you hold a little closer to the camera so we can see it? Yeah. So this is the Hulk Hogan does it say made in China on it?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Is the Hulk Hogan Hasbro figure. And this is the mail-in version, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
And the only way to get it was by mail-in, filling out a card and mailing it. It was like $6 and you could get it. If I've had a time machine, dude, I'd be getting all of them fucking things. Because like the Undertaker one without the baggie is like stupid expensive. And you don't even see the Bret Harts anymore. So I'm not really concerned with those though, because they look so similar. And in the case of the Bret Hart, it's literally the exact same figure. But whereas with this, it's special because it actually looks different than the other versions of it.
Wow. Yeah, looking on eBay right now, they have a one listed for $2,475.
Yeah,
it's like
I paid less than that, thankfully. But
yeah, that is crazy. A little bit of plastic and a lot of nostalgia. That's what that is right there.
I always wanted them all. Like, dude, I got the rings and stuff, like the carrying case. Like, yeah, I got all that shit.
You have you got some wrestling belts too. I know you recently got into that. Do you have you have the NWO one? Is that right?
Signed by Hogan.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
you know what?
Dude,
he was selling them on his beach website. Like he has a store on his website, and he was selling them. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was very like super expensive. And then he sold out of them, and now they're going for like twice the price on eBay that I paid. And I'm like, yeah, I see 4D chess here.
Nice. There you go. Is there a wrestler? Hogan's been brought up a couple times. You got the Hogan belt, you got the NWO belt, you got the Hasbro mail away Hulk Hogan in a bag. Is there a wrestler that if you had a chance to meet, you'd like to meet? Is it Hogan, or is there somebody else along the lines?
I mean, Hogan would be number one for sure.
Yeah. That's great. Good. I know he does interviews and stuff. You just got to go to him. So it's pretty cool. Would you be willing to do that? Go to Florida for a week?
Yeah.
Or a weekend?
I mean, my mom lives there, so I'm gonna go hang out and stay with her.
Easy breezy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Orthodox Monks came in with our movie quote of the day, which is great. Says I think I know precisely what I mean when I say what? I don't even know what this is. Do you know what he's saying right there? It's a spadoinkle day.
No, there's an H in there. Spadoinkle.
Spadoinkle. Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Orthodox Monks. Appreciate that and your support. Let's go to wrap this up, my man. I appreciate your time today. Is there anything that you feel like you need to say that you don't say on a day-to-day basis? Maybe a message to the retro gaming community, or a message to your lovers or haters?
Thank you for if it's a hate watch and you share it in a group, awesome. Because all that means is more people are gonna watch. If people weren't watching, I wouldn't be able to make a living doing this. So yeah, I appreciate people who like me. I appreciate people who hate me. It's all good and fun at the end of the day. And yeah, Thanks for having me on.
You're the one making the bag, man. I think that's the best thing about it.
Secure the bag, baby.
Secure the bag. Love that. All right, man. I look forward to having you on again in the future. Just actually talking some gaming stuff and some gaming news and all that stuff that implies. With that said, I appreciate you guys popping in today. You guys watching. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to the RGT85 YouTube channel. You can go find all his great stuff over there, including a really great conversation, or at least I guess, well, not really a conversation, but a great video about the uselessness of Metacritic, which I fully endorse that. So everyone, if you haven't yet, please go subscribe over there. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe here. With that said, guys, have a great rest of your day. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and we'll see you guys next time. Remember, people are going to try to keep you down. Don't let them. You guys got a goal. Go get it. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.